Yeah, I have a pretty good feeling that stalling the engine at idle indicates that that compressor's done. This isn't exactly going to be a how-to video. Essentially, we're talking about my experience installing the Klima branded Sanden upgrade kit on my W123. Now, for the most part, the instructions were very accurate and basically told me everything I needed to know, except for a few little key details. So one of the first things I ran into was the brackets that go on the compressor. I couldn't squeeze them onto the brackets on the car with the spacer. There was just not enough space there, and it clearly says in the instructions, don't grind anything, it will fit. Well, I couldn't get it to fit. So what I did was I left the front bracket on the compressor just loose. I mean, less than a 1/16 of an inch, not even a millimeter of play, just barely where it would wiggle on those bolts. Slid right in, bolted it up, tightened the front bracket, everything was great. So that was my trick for doing that. Then I ran into an issue where I had installed the compressor facing the wrong way. Now I had to drain out the oil, the storage oil that was in the compressor when it was shipped to me, and replace it with the proper AC PEG oil. And so in doing that, you take the drain plug out of the compressor. Now, logically speaking, a drain plugs face down, right? No. Drain plug faces to the side, facing away from the engine block. Now, I looked through the instructions multiple times, never saw anything about that in there, so I don't know, maybe that was an oversight, maybe I had an older set of instructions, I'm not sure. Wasn't in there. Drain plug goes to the side, so do that before you go and put all the brackets on. Make sure your drain plug is facing away from your engine block. Then from there, things went pretty smooth. Installing the new hoses, it said that basically you needed just that one hanger bracket and then the rest just fit in and everything worked. Well, I did all of that and it hung down really bad on the driver's side right in front of the compressor. So I ended up zip tying it up into the little kind of area right behind the bumper just so that it's up out of the way, because that really looked risky to me. I thought, I'm going to pull up to park somewhere and it's going to tear this hose right off the bottom of the compressor. So I did that, replaced the O-rings, went through, flushed the system, and had it charged, and it has been working great ever since. Now, there are some questions in my mind because an R4 compressor, if I were to buy a new R4 compressor from a parts place in town, it would be almost $300 with a core charge and everything. A little bit less for a reman. So, you're thinking $250 to $300 to put an R4 back on. This kit is now upwards of $600. Now, I didn't pay that much for mine because I found one that was used. It was brand new in the box, just had been sitting for a couple of years. So the great debate is is it worth over double to upgrade to this kit? Is the trouble of installing all this new bracketry and the challenges that had, because putting it together, taking it apart, putting it together, taking it apart because of the drain plug thing, I was getting pretty frustrated by the end of this install, and I'm not going to say it's the most challenging thing I've ever done, but it tested my patience installing this kit. So the results now, the AC performs comparably to my R4 compressor. I've got a few little clips I'll show of testing it on like 100-degree day. Maybe it was only 90, but very, very hot day. Well, with the Sanden compressor installed, let's go ahead and see how this thing performs. Now I've set my little thermometer. In the shade, it is 92.6 degrees. So pretty warm. Inside of my dark blue Mercedes in the sun, Guarantee you it's hotter. Let's step inside and see. AC on 116.7. Second that fan will start blowing, we'll start getting some cold air, hopefully. Alright, so we've been sitting here idling for a while. This thing is hovering between 60 and 62, and that is with the door wide open on a approximately 93 degree day. So the feels like temperature is actually closer to about 100 because of the humidity and all that fun stuff. In my opinion, that's pretty good. On a day where it is 93 degrees actual temperature outside, and it feels like, because of the humidity and all that wonderful stuff, it's closer to 100 degrees, having around a 33 degree temperature differential is not bad at all, I would say. That's going to cool the car off pretty quick. If I shut this door, it's going to get cold in here because the air blowing out of these vents feels really cold, especially compared to the outside air. So with a recirculation modification and a closed door, and if you aren't just sitting idling everywhere you go, it's going to cool down the car really good and keep it cool. So it's kind of hard to tell. I didn't do open door tests with the R4, but I can tell you, seat of the pants, or maybe seat of the armpits, depending on the temperature outside, this does seem like it blows colder air. In the end, is this upgrade worth it? Yes. For the quietness, for the superior new technology in the new compressor, I would say it's worth it. For the trouble of installing it, I'm on the fence. The expense, the trouble, it's debatable, but it does definitely make the car nicer to drive without that huge power sap, and it's way quieter, but it's similar performance. Now maybe if I upgrade to a parallel flow condenser, do some of the other things that are kind of supporting mods for the Sanden, that may improve it, and we'll see. We'll talk about that down the road, but for now, it's comparable, but I've got AC again. Nice cold air in my car, and in the end, not a bad setup. Now, basically the only things in the directions that weren't really covered was clocking of the compressor. Drain plug doesn't face down, it faces off to the side, and the hose thing was a little bit goofy, and I feel like there was one other little snag that I caught and, you know, overcame it. I emailed back and forth with the guy a little bit and sorted out those little technical details, but in the end, it works good now. So that's my experience getting this thing on, getting it working, and I'm pretty happy with the performance of it now. So yeah, thanks for watching.